Blessing had survived leaving a mafia boss husband, starting over with nothing, and building a life from borrowed rooms and overnight shifts. What she hadn't prepared for was him walking through her diner door 4 years later, sitting down at table 6, and leaving $1,000 bill like that could fix what he broke. She picked up that money, walked over, and told him the one thing he needed to hear. "I'm not something you can leave a tip for." The bill hit the floor, the past hit harder. And now everything she'd built to forget him was about to fall apart because the one man she'd escaped couldn't seem to escape her. The clock above the kitchen read 1:47 in the morning when Blessing O'Dara saw her ex-husband walk through the door of the diner. She was refilling the kimchi station, her back to the entrance, but she knew. The way the air changed, the way Mrs. Bion stopped mid-sentence, the way Junho's eyes went wide. 4 years. 4 entire years since she'd walked out of his penthouse with one suitcase and her dignity barely intact. 4 years of building a life from nothing, working overnight shifts at this tiny restaurant in Yeongdo-eunpo, where drunk salarymen came to eat soup and regret their choices. And now Shin Tae-jin was here. She turned around slowly. Her hands were still holding the jar of pickled radish. He stood in the doorway with 2 men behind him. Both wore dark coats. Both had the kind of faces that said, "Don't ask questions." But it was Tae-jin everyone looked at. Tall, quiet, wearing a black coat that probably belonged in a drama instead of a 24-hour diner that smelled like old grease and sesame oil. Their eyes met for 1 second, maybe 2, something cracked in his face. Something that looked almost human, almost like pain. Then it was gone. He walked to table 6. The one by the window, his men sat separately, 2 tables away, silent as stones. Blessing's heart was trying to break out of her chest, but she put the jar down carefully. Wiped her hands on her apron. Mrs. Bion was watching her with sharp eyes. "You okay?" the older woman asked in Korean. "Fine," Blessing said. Her voice came out steady. "Good. I'll take his order." She grabbed a menu she didn't need to grab and walked over. Her cheap non-slip shoes squeaked on the floor. She hated that sound. She'd never hated it more than right now. "What can I get you?" she asked in Korean, flat. Professional, like he was anyone. Tae-jin looked up at her. His eyes were exactly the same. Dark and careful and somehow always sad even when he smiled. "Kimchi jjigae," he said quietly. "And rice, anything else?" "No." She wrote it down even though she'd remember. Walked back to the kitchen, put the order in. Her hands shook when she clipped the paper to the line. Junho came up beside her. "Who is that guy?" he whispered. "He looks rich." "Just a customer," Blessing said. "He's staring at you." "Then stop looking at him." She stayed in the kitchen while the stew cooked. Watched through the window as Tae-jin sat perfectly still, hands folded on the table. He didn't check his phone, didn't look around. Just sat there like he was waiting for something. When the food was ready, she brought it out, set it down in front of him. He said, "Thank you." She walked away. He ate slowly. She could feel him watching her between bites, but she didn't look back. She cleaned tables. Refilled banshin. Helped an old man who'd had too much soju find his way to the bathroom. 20 minutes later, Tae-jin stood up. His men stood too, automatic. He buttoned his coat and walked to the counter where the register was. "I'll pay here," he said. Mrs. Bion rang him up 6,001. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a bill that didn't belong in this universe, 1,000 American dollars. Folded once. Crisp and clean and so out of place in this cramped little restaurant that it might as well have been a grenade. He put it on the counter. The whole diner went quiet. Mrs. Bion stared at it. Juno stopped wiping tables. Even the drunk college kid asleep in the corner seemed to sense something was wrong. Tae-jin looked straight at Blessing. "Keep the change," he said. Then he turned to leave. Something white and hot went through Blessing's chest. She didn't think. She picked up the bill and walked around the counter. Her shoes squeaked again. She didn't care. "Tae-jin?" He stopped. His men looked at her like she'd grown a second head. Nobody used his first name, not like that, not in public. She held the bill out between 2 fingers. "I'm not something you can leave a tip for." His face was unreadable. "It's just money." "No," she said, "it's not." The air between them could have caught fire. 4 years of silence. 4 years of working her body into exhaustion, because exhaustion was better than remembering. 4 years of building something that was hers, only hers, and now he was here trying to fix her life with cash like she was a problem he could solve. "Take it back," she said. He didn't move, so she let it fall. The bill drifted down between them and landed on the ugly brown floor. They both looked at it. Then Tae-jin looked at her. Something in his eyes that might have been regret. Might have been something worse. He walked out. The door chimed behind him. His men followed. And Blessing stood there shaking. staring at $1,000 on the ground, wondering if this was real or if she'd finally cracked from lack of sleep. Mrs. Bean came around the counter, picked up the bill, looked at it like it might bite her. "You want to tell me what that was about?" she asked. "No," Blessing said. The older woman studied her face, then nodded. "Okay, go take your break." Blessing went to the bathroom and locked the door and sat on the closed toilet seat and put her head in her hands. She didn't cry, she'd used up all her tears 3 years ago. But her whole body shook like she was freezing even though the bathroom was warm. She'd known this could happen. Soul was big but not infinite. She'd known someday she might see him again. She just didn't think it would hurt this much. If you're listening to this and your heart is already racing, do me a favor. Drop a comment and tell me if you think he's going to come back. I need to know if you're as stressed as I am right now. And hey, hit that subscribe button because this story is just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. 4 years ago, Blessing had been someone different. She'd been a graduate student at Yonsei University. 24 years old, Kenyan in Seoul, on a scholarship to study public health. She was going to change the world, or at least change her corner of it. She met Taejin at a free clinic in Gurodong. She'd been doing field work, checking blood pressure for factory workers who couldn't afford real doctors. He'd walked in with a cut on his hand, clean slice across the palm, almost surgical. "Cooking accident," he'd said in perfect English when he saw her confusion. She'd believed him. Cleaned it, bandaged it, told him to keep it dry. He'd smiled at her. "You're good at this. It's literally my job," she'd said. "No, I mean you care. Most people just go through the motions." She should have known then. Should have seen the red flag in how he looked at her, like she was water in a desert. Like she was something rare he'd found and wanted to keep. But she was 24 and tired of being alone in a foreign country, and he was handsome and calm, and he kept coming back to the clinic even after his hand healed. He'd ask questions about Kenya, about her family, about her dreams. They were married within a year. The wedding was small. Her mother and brother flew in from Kisumu. Taejin's side of the church was full of serious men in expensive clothes who smiled with their mouths but not their eyes. She didn't know what he did for work. He'd said something vague about import-export, and she'd been too in love to push. The first year was good. He was attentive, generous. He paid off her student loans without asking. Got her a Korean language tutor. Took her to nice restaurants where the staff knew his name. The second year was when things started to feel wrong. It was small stuff at first. He didn't like her study group. Too many men, he said. She should study at home where it was quieter. Made sense. She studied at home. Then he didn't like her clothes. Too casual, he said. His associates' wives dressed nicer. She should too. He bought her a new wardrobe. Everything fit perfectly because he knew her size better than she did. Then he started canceling things. Her flight home to Kisumu for Christmas. Too dangerous, he said. Political instability. He'd read an article. She should wait until summer. Summer came. He canceled that flight too. Her male professors made him quiet. The kind of quiet that lasted for days. She learned to not mention them. She learned to not mention a lot of things. The worst part was he never yelled, never hit her. He just slowly, carefully, made the world smaller and smaller until she forgot what it felt like to breathe deep. She woke up one morning and couldn't remember the last time she'd made a choice. Any choice. What to wear, what to eat, who to see, where to go, it had all become his. And she realized if she didn't leave now, she never would, so she did. One Tuesday morning while he was at a meeting, one suitcase, wedding ring on the kitchen counter, subway to a women's shelter in Mapogu that a clinic friend had once mentioned. She filed for divorce through legal aid. He didn't contest it, didn't show up to court. Just signed the papers through his lawyer and sent her one text. "You'll come back." She didn't. But leaving cost everything. The apartment was his. The bank account was his. Her student visa had expired during the marriage and been replaced with a spousal visa, which evaporated the second the divorce was final. She spent 8 months in immigration limbo. Lived off the kindness of the Kenyan church community in Itaewon. A good lawyer got her a humanitarian stay permit, then a job-seeking visa. She found work where she could, cleaning offices, washing dishes, tutoring English to kids in Gangnam whose parents paid in cash. Now she worked here. Night shift at Mrs. Bean's diner, and during the day she tutored. And she sent money home to Amandi, her younger brother, who was in his last year at university. It wasn't much, but it was hers, every exhausted, broke, beautiful piece of it. And then Taejin walked back into her life with a $1,000 bill and looked at her like no time had passed at all. She didn't sleep that night. Went home at 6 in the morning to the tiny apartment she shared with two other women. A Filipina nurse named Marie and a Korean grad student named Ji-yoon. They were both asleep. Blessing lay on her mattress on the floor and stared at the ceiling and thought about the way Taejon's face had cracked when he saw her. Just for a second, like he was human under all that control. She hated that she'd noticed. 3 days later he came back. Blessing was restocking napkins when the door chimed. She looked up. Her stomach dropped. Taejon, alone this time, no men in dark coats. Just him in jeans and a sweater that made him look younger. Almost like the man she'd married instead of the one she'd divorced. He sat at table 6 again. Juno started to get up, but Blessing put a hand on his arm. "I've got it." She walked over. Menu in hand. "What can I get you?" "Kimchi jjigae," he said. "Same order." "And rice." She wrote it down, walked away, brought the food. When it was ready, he ate. Paid with normal money this time. Left. Didn't say a word beyond "thank you." 4 days later he came back again, then 3 days after that, then twice a week. Then 3 times a week, always table 6, always alone, always the same order. Always polite and quiet, and he never tried to talk to her beyond the transaction, but his presence was so loud it drowned out everything else. Mrs. Bion noticed. "That man," she said one night while they were closing. "He comes for you. He comes for kimchi jjigae," Blessing said. "Nobody comes to this place 3 times a week for the food, honey." Blessing didn't have an answer for that. Junho thought it was romantic. "He's like a drama lead," he said dreamily. "Pining from afar. He's a customer," Blessing said firmly. That's all, but she started taking her breaks when he was there. Started asking Junho to cover table 6. Started spending more time in the kitchen than the floor. It didn't matter. She could feel Taejon watching her through the window. Could feel the weight of his eyes like a physical thing. 2 months into this routine, her phone rang during her afternoon break. "Oh, Mondi," she answered. "Hey, little brother." "Blessing." His voice was so loud she had to hold the phone away from her ear. "I got in," her heart jumped. "Got in where?" "The engineering program. Graduate school. Environmental engineering, full funding. They want me," she screamed. Actually screamed. The other people at the cafe stared, but she didn't care. "Oh, Mondi, that's incredible. I know. It's perfect, except, okay, there's one thing." The happiness in her chest started to curdle. "What thing?" "Enrollment deposit plus living expenses for first semester. They need it in 6 weeks or the spot goes to someone else." "How much?" Silence. "Oh, Mondi." "How much?" $4,000. The world tilted. She sat down hard on the curb outside the cafe. $4,000. 4,000. She had 1,100 in savings, total. That was 3 months of skipping meals and taking every extra shift and tutoring until her voice gave out. "Blessing, you there?" "Yeah," she said. Her voice sounded far away. "Yeah, I'm here. I can defer a year. Find work, save up." "No," the word came out sharp. "No, you're not deferring. This is your dream. It's okay, I can wait. You've waited long enough." "I'll figure it out." "How?" "Good question. Great question." She had no idea. "I'll figure it out," she said again. "Don't worry. I've got this." She hung up and put her head in her hands and tried to do math that simply didn't work. Extra tutoring shifts might get her another 400 a month. Maybe. Mrs. Bion couldn't give her more hours. The diner barely made rent as it was. A bank loan was impossible. No credit history, no full-time job. The church had already helped her so much, she couldn't ask again, which left exactly one option. The $1,000 bill, she'd kept it. She didn't know why. After her shift that first night, she'd picked it up off the floor and put it in an envelope and shoved it in the back of her closet behind her winter coat. She told herself it was because she didn't want Junho or Mrs. Bion to find it and ask questions. But that was a lie. She'd kept it because some broken part of her couldn't throw it away. And now it sat in her closet like a test, like a trap. $1,000 that would get her 1/4 of the way to saving her brother's future. Or she could keep her pride and watch Amandi's dream die. She went home and opened the closet and stared at the envelope for a long time. Then she closed the closet and went to work. That night Taejon came in at 1:30, earlier than usual. She was wiping down table 3 when he walked through the door, and something about his face was different. More tired, more real. He sat at table 6. She brought him water without being asked. Old habit from the marriage. He used to love cold water with meals. He looked at the glass. Then at her. "Thank you." She nodded and walked away. When she brought his food, he said, "How've you been?" Her hand tightened on the tray. "That's not a question you get to ask." Silence. "Right," he said quietly. "Sorry." She left the food and walked away, and her hands were shaking so hard she had to go to the bathroom to breathe. When she came out, he was gone. Money on the table, exact change, but there was something else. A business card, nothing written on it, just a phone number. She picked it up and turned it over and over in her hands and finally shoved it in her apron pocket and hated herself for not throwing it away. 2 weeks later, Blessing was behind the diner on her break, phone pressed to her ear, talking to Amandi and Doluo so the Korean staff wouldn't understand. "I'm working on it," she said. "I promise. You'll get the money. Blessing, the deadline is in 4 weeks. I know. Do you have it?" "No." "I'm close." "How close?" She closed her eyes, lied. "Very close. Don't worry about it. Focus on your exams. You're not eating again, are you?" "I'm eating fine." "You're lying, Amandi. I can defer." "Seriously, 1 year won't kill me." "No," she said. Her voice came out harder than she meant. "You're going. I'll handle this." She hung up and leaned against the wall and felt like screaming. "You okay?" She jumped, spun around. Taejin stood at the corner of the building, just standing there, in the alley behind a diner at 2 in the morning like it was a normal thing to do. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "I came for food. The entrance is on the other side." "I know. I saw you out here. Wanted to make sure you were okay." "I'm fine." He looked at her for a long moment. "You don't look fine." "Well, I am, so you can go." He didn't move. "Was that your brother?" On the phone, her blood went cold. "You speak Dolua now?" "But I recognize worry when I hear it. It's none of your business." "I know," he said, and he sounded sad about it. "I know it's not." They stood there in the alley between the dumpster and the recycling bins, and for a second Blessing felt 25 again. Felt like the girl who'd loved him before she learned what his love cost. "I should go back inside," she said. "Blessing," she stopped. "If you need help," he said quietly. "Any kind of help. Call me. I have your card." "I know. I'm not going to use it." "I know that too," he said. "But I wanted you to have it anyway." He walked back around the building. She heard the front door chime as he went inside. She stayed in the alley for 5 more minutes trying to get her heartbeat under control. When she went back in, Junho gave her a weird look. "That guy asked for you. What did you tell him? That you were on break?" "And he said he'd wait. Then he just ordered like normal." Junho tilted his head. "You really don't know him?" "I used to," Blessing said. "A long time ago." That night she went home and took out the envelope and counted the $1,000 and thought about her brother and thought about her pride and thought about what Mrs. Bian had said once when Blessing apologized for needing time off. "Honey," the older woman had said, "pride doesn't pay rent." Blessing put the money back in the envelope. Put the envelope back in the closet. Not yet. She'd find another way. She had to. 3 days later, Mrs. Bian called Blessing into the tiny office behind the kitchen. "Sit down," the older woman said. Blessing sat. Her mind raced through possibilities. Was she getting fired? Had she messed up an order? Offended a customer? Mrs. Bion pulled out an official-looking letter. "Building owner is raising the lease. Relief." "Not fired. Okay. By how much?" 40%. "The relief died." "What?" "New development project. They want me out so they can tear this place down and build something fancy." "Can they do that?" "They own the building. They can do whatever they want." Mrs. Bion's face was tired. She was 61 years old and had run this diner for 19 years. "I have 60 days to accept the new terms or leave. Can you afford it?" "No." The single word hung in the air like smoke. "What are you going to do?" Blessing asked. "I don't know yet." Mrs. Bian looked at her hands. "Maybe it's time. I'm getting old anyway." "You're not old." "I'm tired, honey." "That's close enough." Blessing felt something crack in her chest. This place. This ugly little restaurant with its flickering sign and its worn floors and its smell of old grease. It was home, the first real home she'd had since leaving Taijin. "There has to be something we can do," she said. "Like what?" "I don't have rich friends. I don't have connections. I'm just an old woman who makes soup." They sat in silence. Then Blessing asked the question she didn't want to ask. "Who owns the building?" Mrs. Bian checked the letter. Dahan Properties. The name meant nothing to Blessing. She took a photo of the letter when Mrs. Bion wasn't looking and went home that night and searched the name online. Dahan Properties' parent company was a development consortium. Partners included 6 different construction firms. One of them was Baksan Construction. Her hands went numb. Baeksan, Taejun's company, his family name on the door, his world eating hers. She didn't know if he knew his empire was huge. Maybe he had no idea one of his partner companies was destroying a little diner in Yeongdongpo. Or maybe he did know. Maybe this was intentional. She closed her laptop and stared at the wall and felt the world getting smaller again. Just like it had in the marriage. Like no matter where she went or what she built, his shadow found her. Amandi's tuition. Mrs. Bian's lease, her visa expiring in 90 days. Every single problem in her life, and they all had the same solution, Taijun. She could ask him. One phone call, he'd solve everything, and she would owe him again, forever. The next time he came to the diner, She watched him through the kitchen window. Watched him sit at table 6 and order his food and eat without tasting it. Watched him look for her even though she was hiding. Junho brought him the check. Taejin asked, "Is Blessing here tonight?" "Yeah, she's in the back. Can you tell her something for me?" "Sure." Taejin handed him the payment. "Tell her I'm sorry." Junho came into the kitchen looking confused. "He said to tell you he's sorry." "For what?" Blessing asked. "Didn't say." She looked through the window. Taejin was standing now, buttoning his coat. He looked at the kitchen window. Straight at her, even though she knew he couldn't see through the glare. Then he left. "That guy is so weird," Junho said. Blessing didn't answer. That night she took the business card out of her apron pocket and stared at it for a long time. Her phone buzzed. Text from Amandi, just 3 words. 3 weeks left. She put the card back in her pocket. Not yet. But soon she was going to run out of time, and she still didn't know what scared her more. Calling him or not calling him. The answer came 5 days later in the form of her little brother standing in the diner at 2 in the morning with a backpack and the biggest grin she'd ever seen. "Surprise!" Amandi shouted. Blessing dropped the coffee pot. It didn't break, but coffee went everywhere, and Junho yelped, and Mrs. Bian came running out of the kitchen. Amandi, Blessing's voice came out like a squeak. "What are you doing here?" He spread his arms wide. "I came to Seoul, I can see that." "Why? The program fell through in Nairobi. Some funding issue, but I figured why wait? You're here. I'll find work here. We'll figure it out together." Her brain wasn't working. "You used your tuition money to buy a plane ticket?" "Well, yeah. What else was I going to do with it?" She wanted to scream, wanted to hug him, wanted to cry. Settled for grabbing his arm and dragging him to the corner booth while Junho cleaned up the coffee and tried not to laugh. "You can't just show up in Korea with no plan," she hissed. "Why not? You did. That was different. I had a scholarship, and then you didn't, and you survived. So will I." He was still grinning. 23 years old and absolutely fearless. "Come on, sister. When's the last time we were in the same country?" 3 years. It had been 3 years. She looked at his face, saw their mother's eyes, saw their father's stubborn chin, saw home. "You're an idiot," she said. "Yeah, but I'm your idiot." She hugged him then. Hard enough that he wheezed. Mrs. Bian came over with a menu. "Your brother?" "Yes." "I'm so sorry about the coffee." "Forget the coffee, he looks hungry." She looked at Omandi. "You eat always," Omandi said in terrible Korean. Mrs. Bian laughed and went to make him food. Blessing put her head in her hands. "Where are you staying?" "I thought maybe with you." "Omandi, I live in a room the size of a closet with 2 other people. So now you'll have 3. There's barely space for 1 mattress. I'll sleep on the floor." "I'm not picky." Of course he'd sleep on the floor. Of course he was fine with it. Because Omandi had always been like this. Reckless and optimistic and completely unable to think more than 5 minutes ahead. Mrs. Bian brought out enough food for 3 people. Omandi ate like he hadn't seen a meal in days. Probably he hadn't. "This is incredible," he said in English, mouth full. "Manners," Blessing said. "Since when do you care about manners?" "Since I married a man who corrected the way I held my fork," she didn't say. "Just eat." She texted her roommates. Marie responded immediately. "Bring him over, we'll make space." Ji-yoon sent back 7 heart emojis, so that was that. Omandi was staying. The next morning, Blessing's phone rang at 8. She'd gotten exactly 3 hours of sleep. Omandi was snoring on the floor next to her mattress. Marie had already left for her hospital shift. Ji-yoon was in the tiny kitchen making tea. The caller ID said Son Yoonji, her immigration lawyer. Blessing's stomach dropped. Nothing good ever came from lawyers calling this early. "Hello, Blessing, hi. Sorry to call so early. Do you have a minute?" "Sure, your DIN visa. It expires in 90 days. The world tilted. Blessing sat up so fast Omandi stirred in his sleep. 90 days? Yes, I should have called sooner, but I've been swamped. To renew, you need full-time employment sponsorship. Part-time at the diner and informal tutoring won't qualify. What are my options?" Son Yoonji sighed. "Find a sponsor, marry a Korean national, or leave. That's it?" "I'm sorry. I know it's not ideal." "Ideal? What a word." Blessing wanted to laugh or scream or both. "Okay," she said. "Thank you for letting me know. I'll start looking into alternatives, but I have to be honest, it's not looking good. The laws changed last year. They're cracking down on visa extensions." They hung up. Blessing stared at her phone. 90 days. Amandi's voice came from the floor. "What's wrong?" "Go back to sleep." "Blessing." She looked down at him. His eyes were open now, worried. "My visa expires in 3 months," she said. "If I can't find a full-time job with sponsorship, I have to leave Korea." He sat up. "What about the diner? Part-time doesn't count. Can Mrs. Bian make you full-time? She can barely afford to keep the place open." They sat in silence. Ji-yoon came in with 2 cups of tea and read the room and quietly left. "This is my fault," Amandi said. "I shouldn't have come. Don't be stupid. I'm glad you're here. But now you have another mouth to feed and your visa is expiring and I just made everything worse." He wasn't wrong. But she wasn't about to tell him that. "We'll figure it out," she said. The same thing she always said, the same lie that was becoming harder to believe. Amandi came to the diner that night, said he wanted to see where she worked. Really, he probably just wanted free food, but Blessing didn't argue. Mrs. Bion loved him immediately. Fed him too much, taught him Korean phrases that were definitely not appropriate for church. Junho tried to teach him how to balance 3 plates at once. Amandi dropped 2. It was almost nice, almost normal, like having family around could make the world less sharp. Then at 1:30 the door opened and Taijin walked in. Blessing saw him first. Felt her whole body go tense. Amandi was wiping down table 4. He looked up, looked at Taejun, looked at Blessing. "Who's that?" he asked in English. "Nobody," she said quickly. "Just a regular." But Amandi was watching the way Taejun moved, the way people's eyes followed him. The quiet authority that came off him like heat. "He doesn't look like nobody," Amandi said. Taejun sat at table 6. Juno started to get up, but Blessing beat him to it. She walked over. "The usual, please." She started to turn away. "Wait," Taejun said. She stopped. He was looking past her, at Amandi. "Is that your brother?" Her blood went cold. "How do you know I have a brother?" "You mentioned him before. A long time ago. During the marriage, when she used to tell him things. When she thought sharing her life with him was safe." "Yes," she said. "That's Amandi. He looks like you. We're siblings." "That's how it works." The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. "Is he visiting?" "He's staying." Something changed in Taijin's face. "For how long?" "I don't know." "Why does it matter?" "It doesn't," he said, but his eyes said different. She brought his food. He ate, paid, left. Amandi came up beside her as she cleared the table. "Okay, seriously. Who is he?" "I told you, a customer." "Blessing." She looked at her brother. He had that face. The one that said he wasn't letting this go. "Fine," she said quietly. "That's my ex-husband." Amandi's eyes went huge. "That's him?" "That's the guy?" "Yes." "What's he doing here?" "Eating kimchi jjigae, apparently." "Don't joke." "Why does he keep coming here?" "I don't know, Amandi." "I really don't." Her brother looked at the door where Taejun had just left. "He was staring at you the whole time." "He wasn't." "Yes, he was. Like you were the only person in the room." Amandi turned to her. "You didn't tell me he still looked at you like that." "Like what?" "Like he's drowning in your air." Blessing felt something twist in her chest. "You're being dramatic, and you're lying to yourself." They didn't talk about it the rest of the night. But Blessing caught Amandi watching her, thinking she knew that look. It was the same look he used to get right before he did something incredibly stupid. The next day, while Blessing was at a tutoring session, Amandi borrowed Ji-yoon's laptop. He Googled Shin Taejin. The results were immediate. CEO of Baeksan Construction. Head of the Baeksan faction. Estimated net worth in the hundreds of millions. Connections to half the politicians in Seoul. And if you read between the lines, if you looked at the carefully worded articles and the things that weren't quite said, organized crime. Not the violent kind, the quiet kind. The kind that wore expensive clothes and moved money and made problems disappear. Amandi sat back. "Oh, Blessing," he said to the empty room. "What did you get yourself into?" He should have been scared. Any reasonable person would have been scared. But Amandi had never been particularly reasonable. He wrote down the address for Baeksan Construction, took the subway to Gangnam. Walked into a building that was all glass and steel and money. The security guard at the desk looked him up and down. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Shin Taejun," Amandi said in his bad Korean. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "Then you can't see him." Amandi leaned on the desk, smiled. "Tell him Blessing's brother is here." The guard's face changed. "Wait here." He made a phone call. Spoke quietly, hung up, looked at Amandi like he'd just sprouted wings. "Top floor," the guard said. "Someone will meet you at the elevator." Amandi rode up 43 floors. His ears popped. A woman in a perfect suit was waiting when the doors opened. "Follow me," she said. She led him through an office that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Everything was clean lines and expensive furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows that showed all of Seoul spread out like a gift. She opened a door. "Mr. Shin will see you now." Amandi walked in. Taejun stood behind a desk that was bigger than Blessing's entire room. He didn't look surprised. "Just tired." "Sit down," he said in English. Amandi sat. They looked at each other. "My sister would rather starve than take your help," Amandi said. "But I'm not my sister. So talk to me." Taejun's expression didn't change. "What do you want?" "I want to know why you keep going to that diner." "That's between me and her." "No, it's not. Because she doesn't sleep anymore. She works 16 hours a day." She sent me money she didn't have while eating 1 meal a day. That's what leaving you cost her. So yeah, it's my business. Something flickered in Taijun's eyes. Pain maybe, or shame. What do you want, he asked again. A job, Amandi said. I need work. You clearly have money. Hire me for what? I don't know, whatever. Filing, translation, cleaning toilets. I don't care. You think I'm going to hire you just because you're her brother? No, Amandi said. I think you're going to hire me because you feel guilty. And because this way you can help her without her knowing. And because I'm the only person in your life right now who isn't afraid of you. Silence. Then Taejun did something unexpected. He smiled, small and sad but real. You're just like her, he said. Stubborn. Is that a yes? Taejun picked up his phone. Made a call. Mr. Go, come to my office. 2 minutes later, an older man walked in, calm face. Sharp eyes. He looked at Omandi with interest. This is Omandi, Taejun said. Blessing's brother. He needs a job, entry-level, administration, market rate, no special treatment. Go raised an eyebrow. Does she know about this? No, Omandi said. And she can't find out. She'll find out, Mr. Go said. Probably, Taejun agreed. But by then he'll already have the job. Mr. Go looked between them, then nodded. HR will contact you tomorrow. Thank you, Omandi said. He stood to leave. Taejun's voice stopped him. One condition, Omandi turned. I stay away from the diner, Taejun said. From her, that's the deal. You work here, I stay away. Why would you do that? Because she doesn't want me there. And I owe her a lot of things, but most of all I owe her that. Omandi studied him. This man who'd hurt his sister. This man who was still clearly in love with her. This man who was rich and powerful and completely broken. Okay, Omandi said. Deal. He left, Mr. Go looked at Taejun. You know this is a terrible idea. I know. She's going to be furious. I know that too. So why are you doing it? Taejun looked out the window at the city below. Because he's right, I do feel guilty. And this is the only thing I can do that might actually help her. Mr. Go sighed. You're going to break your own heart with this. It's already broken, Taejun said quietly. Has been for 4 years. Omandi came home that night looking pleased with himself. I got a job, he announced. Blessing looked up from the English test she was grading. Already? Where? Construction company. Office work. Good pay. Which company, Baxon? The pen fell out of her hand. You didn't, she whispered. I did. Omandi, please tell me you didn't go to him. Okay, I won't tell you. She stood up so fast her papers scattered. What were you thinking? I was thinking you need help and you're too stubborn to ask for it, so I did. That's not your decision to make. Someone had to make it. You're about to get deported and you won't even consider calling him, because I don't want anything from him. Well, I do, Omandi shouted back. I want you to stay in Korea. I want you to not work yourself to death. I want you to be okay. And if that means I have to work for your ex-husband, then fine, I'll do it. The room went silent. Marie poked her head in. Everything okay? Fine, Blessing said tightly. Marie retreated. Blessing turned back to her brother, kept her voice low and sharp. You have no idea what you just did. I got a job. You walked into his world. You think this is just about work? You think he does anything without strings attached? He said no special treatment. Of course he did. That's how he works. He makes it seem reasonable, makes it seem like help, until one day you wake up and realize you can't remember the last choice you made that was actually yours. Amandi's face changed. Blessing, he doesn't hit, he doesn't yell. He just makes everything smaller and smaller until you forget what big feels like. Until you forget what you wanted before he told you what to want. Her voice cracked. And you just walked straight into that, she said. You just handed yourself to him. I'm not you, Amandi said quietly. And he's not offering me what he offered you. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because I made it clear I work for him. He stays away from you. That was the deal that stopped her. What? He stays away from the diner, from you, in exchange for giving me the job. Blessing sat down slowly. He agreed to that? Yes. She didn't know what to do with this information. Taejun staying away should have been what she wanted, was what she wanted. So why did it feel like losing something? Hey, quick question before we keep going. Do you think Blessing should forgive him? Or is some damage just too deep to fix? Let me know in the comments what you'd do if you were her. Because honestly, I'm stressed just writing this. The next 2 weeks were strange. Omandi went to work every day at Baeksun, came home with stories about the office, about Mr. Go, who was apparently really kind, about the filing systems, about learning how Korean corporate culture worked. He seemed happy. Blessing hated it. And Taejun stopped coming to the diner. 2 weeks without him walking through that door. 2 weeks without the weight of his eyes. 2 weeks of table 6 sitting empty. She should have been relieved. She was relieved. She was also, confusingly, a little sad. which made her angry at herself, which made her work harder, which made her more tired. Mrs. Bion noticed, "You look terrible." "Thanks, I mean it." "When's the last time you slept?" Blessing couldn't remember. "Go home early tonight, Mrs. Bion said. "Junho and I can handle it." "I'm fine. You're not fine. You're running on fumes. Go home before you collapse." Blessing went home at midnight instead of 6 in the morning. The apartment was dark. Marie was on night shift. Jiyun was asleep. Amandi's mattress on the floor was empty. She texted him. "Where are you?" 20 minutes later, he replied, "Work dinner. Be home late. Work dinner." At Bakeson with Taijin's people. Blessing stared at the ceiling and tried not to think about her baby brother in that world. That clean, dangerous, expensive world that looked safe until it wasn't. She must have fallen asleep because the next thing she knew, someone was shaking her shoulder. "Blessing, wake up, Amandi." He was kneeling next to her mattress. It was 3 in the morning. "What's wrong?" she mumbled. "I need to tell you something." She sat up. Her mouth tasted like old coffee. "What?" "I heard something today, at the office. About the redevelopment project in Yeongdongpo." She was awake now. "What about it?" "Bakeson pulled out of it 4 months ago. Right after Taejin went to scout the location. So the location was your diner. He walked in, saw you, and killed the whole project, just stopped it. The executives were confused because it was a good deal financially. But he shut it down and never explained why." Blessing's brain was trying to catch up. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying he didn't come to the diner to see you. He came for business. Seeing you was an accident. But after that he made sure his company wasn't part of destroying your workplace." The room felt like it was tilting. "You're sure?" she asked. "I heard 2 executives talking about it. They didn't know I was listening." So Taijin hadn't been following her, hadn't been controlling her. Had just walked into the wrong diner at the wrong time and seen his ex-wife serving soup. And then kept coming back, not because he was trying to fix her life, but because he couldn't stay away. She didn't know why that hurt differently than everything else. But it did. "Blessing?" Amandi's voice was soft. "You okay?" "Yeah," she lied. "Go to sleep." But she didn't sleep. She lay there thinking about coincidence and intention, and the look on Taijun's face that first night when he'd seen her. Like someone had punched him in the chest. Like the last 4 years had vanished in a second. She thought about it until the sun came up, and it was time to go tutor rich kids in Gangnam who'd never worked a day in their lives. 3 days later, a man came into the diner during the afternoon. Blessing was prepping for the dinner shift. The lunch rush was over. Mrs. Bion was in the back. Junho didn't work afternoons. The man sat at the counter, older, maybe 60. Wearing a nice coat but not flashy. He had a calm face. "Can I help you?" Blessing asked in Korean. "Soup, please," he said. "Whatever's good." She brought him gamjatang. He ate slowly. Seemed to be thinking about something. When he finished, he said, "Your Blessing." Her guard went up. "Do I know you?" "No." "I work for Shin Taejin. My name is Mr. Go." Her hands went still. "He sent you here?" "No." "He doesn't know I came. He'd be angry if he found out." "Then why are you here, Mr.?" Go looked at her with kind eyes. "Because someone should know. He has not been the same since you left. I'm not asking you to care. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just telling you because it's the truth and the truth matters." "You don't know anything about us," Blessing said. "I know enough. I've worked for him for 10 years. I've seen him negotiate with people who could destroy him. I've seen him make decisions that changed hundreds of lives. I've never seen him rattled. Until you, that's not my problem, I know, but it might help you to understand. He goes home every night to an empty apartment. Doesn't cook, doesn't decorate, sits in the dark. Started seeing a therapist 6 months ago because I made him. He's trying to figure out how to be different, how to be better, not for you. He knows you're not coming back, just for himself." Blessing felt something crack in her chest. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because you kept that $1,000 bill for 4 years, Mr. Go said gently. "Your brother told me. You didn't throw it away, you kept it. That means something. It doesn't mean anything. If you say so." He stood. "Put money on the counter. I won't come back. I just wanted you to know he's not the man he was. Maybe he never will be the man he should be, but he's trying." He left. Blessing stood behind the counter, feeling like the ground had moved under her feet. Mrs. Bion came out of the kitchen. "Who was that?" "Nobody," Blessing said, but her hands were shaking. That night Amandi came home from work quiet. "What's wrong?" Blessing asked. "I saw him today. Taejin, in a meeting, and he was different than I expected. Cold, really cold. Made a guy almost cry over a contract error. Everyone in that office is terrified of him." Amandi looked at his sister. "I get it now," he said. "Why you left?" Blessing didn't say anything, but I also saw him after, Amandi continued. When everyone left, he just sat in his office alone, staring at nothing, mister. Go brought him water and he didn't even notice. What's your point? I don't know. I just thought he'd be different, happy maybe, rich and powerful and happy, but he's not. He's the loneliest person I've ever seen. That's not my fault, Blessing said. I know, he did that to himself. I know that too. They sat in silence. I got the visa extension paperwork started, Omandi said eventually, for myself. Turns out working at Baxen means I qualify for a work visa pretty easily. That's good, yeah. Would be nice if you could get one too. I'm working on it, but she wasn't really. Because all the paths to a visa led back to the same place, Taijin. A week later, Mrs. Bion got the final notice on the lease. 30 days to accept the new terms or vacate. She showed Blessing the letter in the office. Her hands were shaking. I can't afford it, the older woman said. I just can't. I know. I'm going to close. End of the month. I'm sorry, honey. I know you need this job. Don't apologize. You've done so much for me already. Mrs. Bion wiped her eyes. 19 years. This place has been my whole life. Blessing felt something break inside her chest. She went home that night and took out her laptop and did something she swore she wouldn't do. She researched, pulled public records on the redevelopment project, found the permits, found the partners, found the financial backing, found the weaknesses. The project had legal vulnerabilities, questionable zoning approvals, partners with bad press. Money that didn't quite add up. If someone wanted to kill this project, they could. If someone had the power and the connections and the will, she knew exactly one person like that. Blessing opened her phone, found the business card she'd photographed before throwing away. Stared at the number, her brother's future, her visa, Mrs. Bion's diner. Every single problem had the same solution, and she was so tired of pretending it didn't. She typed out a message. I need to talk to you about business. Tomorrow at 2. Your office. She stared at it for 5 minutes. Then she hit send. The reply came in 30 seconds. I'll be here. Blessing put her phone down and put her head in her hands. Tomorrow she was going to walk into Taejun's world by choice. And she had no idea if she'd be able to walk back out. The Baksan construction building looked different in daylight. Blessing stood outside at 1:55, staring up at all that glass and steel. People in business clothes walked past her. She was wearing her nicest outfit. A black skirt and white blouse she'd bought at a second-hand shop 3 years ago. Clean but obviously old, obviously cheap. She didn't care. She walked through the doors. The security guard recognized her immediately. Miss Odera? He knew her name. Of course he did. I have a meeting with Mr. Shin, she said, top floor. He's expecting you. The elevator ride felt like flying and falling at the same time. Her stomach dropped with each floor, 43 of them. Her ears popped. The doors opened. The same woman in the perfect suit was waiting. This way, please. They walked through the office. People looked up, looked at Blessing, looked away quickly, like they knew who she was. Like they'd been told not to stare. The woman opened the door to Taejun's office. Mr. Shin, Miss Odera is here. Thank you, Minji. Blessing walked in, the door closed behind her. Taejun stood from behind his desk. He looked different here, sharper. Like the edges of him had been filed down at the diner and now they were back. Blessing, he said. Please sit. She sat. The chair was probably worth more than everything she owned, but she didn't let herself think about that. He sat across from her, the desk between them like a canyon. You said this was about business, he said. It is. I'm listening. She pulled out her phone. Opened her notes. Mrs. Bion's lease. The building owner is forcing her out with a 40% increase. The owner is Daehan Properties. They're part of a redevelopment consortium that includes 6 construction firms and 3 financial backers. Taejun's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. The project has problems, Blessing continued. Zoning permits that were approved too quickly. Partners with corruption investigations. Money flowing from sources that wouldn't look good in the press. If someone wanted to apply pressure, if someone had the connections, this project could be stopped. Or at least slowed down enough that the building owner would negotiate. She looked up at him. I want you to stop it, she said. Silence. Why would I do that? Taejun asked quietly. Because it's a good business decision. Because that project is dirty, and you don't need dirty right now. Because Mrs. Bion has run that diner for 19 years, and she deserves better than being pushed out by developers who are cutting corners. And because I'm asking you to. More silence. Taejun leaned back in his chair, studied her. You came all the way here to ask me to save a diner, he said. Yes, after refusing every kind of help I've tried to offer for months. This is different. How? Because I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to do what you do, apply pressure, make calls. Kill a project that shouldn't exist anyway. She kept her voice steady. This isn't charity. This is you doing what's right and both of us knowing it happens to help me. Tajan's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. You've been doing homework. I'm not stupid. I never thought you were stupid, Blessing. I thought a lot of terrible things about myself after you left, but I never once thought you were anything less than brilliant. The words hung in the air between them. The lease, she said, redirecting, staying on target. Can you do it? Yes, just like that. Simple, easy. When, she asked. By the end of the week, her heart jumped. Really? Yes. I'll make some calls. The project will stall. Dahan will get nervous and offer to renegotiate existing leases to maintain stability, Mrs. Bayonne keeps her diner. It was too easy. Nothing was ever this easy. What do you want in return? Blessing asked. Nothing, Tajan. I mean it. You were right. That project is dirty. I don't need the headache, and Mrs. Bayonne shouldn't lose her business because some developers got greedy. He paused. But I have a feeling you didn't come all the way here just for that. He was right. Blessing took a breath. My brother, he needs $4,000 for his enrollment. I will accept it as a loan with interest documented. I'll pay you back within 18 months. I don't want your money. I know. That's why it has to be a loan. Tajan looked at her for a long moment. You really can't just let someone help you, can you? Not without terms. Not without knowing exactly what I owe and when it ends. You don't owe me anything. I will if you give me $4,000. Blessing. Those are my terms, she said firmly. Take it or leave it. He sighed, picked up his phone. Mr. Go, bring me a loan agreement. Standard terms, $4,000, 18-month repayment, 6% interest. He hung up. 6% is below market rate, Blessing said. It's what you're getting. To June, you wanted a loan. You're getting a loan. Those are my terms. They stared at each other across the desk. Some kind of standoff that was also somehow not a fight, Mr. Go came in 5 minutes later with papers, set them on the desk. Looked at Blessing with something that might have been respect. Anything else, boss? He asked. No, thank you. Mr. Go left. Tajan pushed the papers across the desk. Read it. Make sure it's what you want. Blessing read every word. It was exactly what she'd asked for. $4,000, 18 months, 6% interest. Monthly payments of $243. She could do that. It would be tight, but she could do it. She signed. Tajan signed. It was done. The money will be in your account by tonight, he said. Thank you. You're welcome. She stood to leave, made it to the door. His voice stopped her. Blessing, she turned. He was standing now, hands in his pockets, looking at her like he was trying to memorize her face. I'm sorry, he said, for all of it. For making you so small you forgot how big you were. For loving you like you were something I owned instead of someone I was lucky to know. For every single day you've struggled because I made you afraid to ask for help. Her throat closed up. I don't expect forgiveness, he continued. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to hear it from me, not from Mr. Go or your brother or anyone else. From me. She should leave, should walk out, should take the win and go. Instead, she said, you're seeing a therapist. He looked surprised, Mr. Go told you, yes, I should fire him, don't. He cares about you. I know, Tajan smiled sadly. Someone has to. Is it helping? The therapy? He thought about it. I don't know yet. It's only been 6 months. Turns out unlearning a lifetime of bad patterns takes time. Yeah, she said quietly. It does. They looked at each other. I should go, Blessing said. Okay. She opened the door. Blessing, he said again. She looked back. You kept the $1,000, he said. For 4 years, Amandi told me. Her face went hot. I don't know why I did that. I do, Taijun said. Same reason I kept coming to the diner even though it hurt to see you. Some things you can't throw away even when you know you should. She didn't have an answer for that. So she left. The next 3 days were chaos in the best way, Mrs. Bayonne got a call from Dahan Properties. The lease increase was being reconsidered. New terms would be offered within the week. The older woman came into the kitchen with tears on her face. I don't know what happened, but something changed. Blessing said nothing, just hugged her. The new lease came through, same rate as before, 5-year term, Mrs. Bayonne signed it and cried and made too much food and fed everyone in the diner for free that night. Junho asked, how did this happen? Miracle, Mrs. Bayonne said. Blessing kept her mouth shut. The $4,000 appeared in her account that night, just like Taejun said it would. She transferred it immediately to Omandi's program. Her brother got the confirmation email at breakfast, started screaming, grabbed Blessing and spun her around the tiny kitchen. How did you do it? He asked. Loan, she said. I'll be paying it back for the next 1.5 years, but we'll manage. From who? She gave him a look. Oh, Amandi said. Him, yes. Are you okay with that? I don't know yet, she said honestly. But you're going to school, that's what matters. He hugged her again. Thank you, sister. You're welcome. That left one problem, the visa. Blessing met with Son Yoonji 3 days later, brought all her paperwork. I have 60 days left, she said. What can we do? The lawyer looked tired. Honestly, not much. Unless you find a full-time sponsor or get married, you're out of options. There has to be something. I'm sorry. I really am, but the law's changed. They're not extending D10s anymore without solid employment. Blessing left the office feeling like the ground was disappearing under her feet. She'd solved Amandi's problem, solved Mrs. Bian's problem, but her own problem was still there. 60 days until she had to leave the only real home she'd built since the divorce. She went to work that night quiet. Mrs. Bian noticed. What's wrong? Visa trouble. Still? Yeah, the older woman was quiet for a moment. Then she said, come to the office after close. Blessing did. Miss Bian had papers on the desk. I've been thinking about this, about the diner, about getting old, about what happens when I can't do this anymore. You're not old. I'm 61, honey. That's old enough and I'm tired, but I love this place. I don't want to sell it to someone who'll turn it into something else. She pushed the papers forward. I want to make you manager, official full-time contract, salary plus benefits, which means you'd qualify for visa sponsorship. Blessing stared at the papers. Bian, you can't afford to pay me full-time. Actually, with the new lease terms, I can, barely. But I can. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Says you'll stay and help me run this place, and eventually when I retire, maybe you'll take over. Turn it into whatever you want it to be. Tears were burning in Blessing's eyes. You'd do that for me? Your family, honey. Family doesn't leave. Blessing signed the contract with shaking hands. Took it to Son Yoonji the next day. The lawyer read it and smiled for the first time in months. This works, she said. I can file for your extension today. Really, really. You're staying in Korea, Blessing. She walked out of that office and called Amandi and told him, and he screamed so loud she had to hold the phone away from her ear. Does this mean you're staying? He asked. Yeah, she said. I'm staying. That night she worked her shift with something she hadn't felt in years, hope. Real, solid, tangible hope. Mrs. Bian kept the diner. Amandi got into his program. Blessing got to stay. Everything was fixed. Almost everything. Before we get to the end, I need to know something. Have you ever had to choose between your pride and your future? Between being right and being okay? Drop a comment and tell me about it. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it now, because you've come this far and I promise the ending is worth it. 2 weeks later, Blessing sent Taejun a message. I need to talk to you, in person, at the diner. Tuesday at 2 a.m., his reply came fast. I'll be there. Tuesday came. The diner was slow. Just one customer finishing up his meal when Taejun walked through the door at exactly 2. He looked nervous. Taejun nervous. Blame at him at the door. Table 6. He sat. She sat across from him. First time she'd done that since the divorce. I wanted to thank you, she said, for the lease, for the loan, for staying away when I asked you to. You don't need to thank me. I know. But I wanted to. She took a breath. And I wanted to tell you something. Something I need you to hear and not respond to until I'm done. He nodded. She talked. Told him what the marriage had done to her. Not the big things, the small ones. The way he'd adjusted her necklace at dinner parties and she'd stopped wearing jewelry she picked herself. The way he'd canceled her flights and she'd stopped making plans. The way he'd gone quiet when she mentioned male friends and she'd stopped mentioning anyone at all. You made me smaller, she said. Little by little until I woke up one day and couldn't remember who I was before you, what I liked, what I wanted, what I dreamed about. Her voice didn't shake. She'd practiced this. I don't hate you, she continued. I did for a while. But hate is exhausting and I was already tired, so I stopped. But not hating you was almost harder because it meant I had to see you as human. Had to accept that you probably loved me the only way you knew how. And that way almost destroyed me. Taejun's face was completely still, but his eyes were wet. I need you to know, Blessing said, that leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than being poor, harder than working 3 jobs, harder than learning to sleep in a room that wasn't a cage, because I did love you. Part of me probably still does, but I love myself more now, and I won't ever go back to being small. She stopped, waited. Taejun took a shaky breath. Can I speak now? Yes, you were right about all of it, every word. I didn't know I was doing it at the time, but that's not an excuse. I should have known. Should have seen your world getting smaller and stopped myself. He wiped his eyes roughly. You told me once that you'd come back. Do you remember? Right after you left. You told me I'd come back, Blessing corrected. No, you told me. The night before you left. We were having dinner and you said you'd come back late from the clinic, and I said okay. And you did come back. You always came back. Her chest tightened. Until you didn't, Taejun said. And that was the smartest thing you ever did. You were the only person in my entire life brave enough to leave. Everyone else just stayed and got smaller, but you left. You chose yourself. And I've spent 4 years understanding what that meant. He pulled something from his pocket. The $1,000 bill, creased and worn. Amandi gave this back to me, he said. Told me you kept it for 4 years. I've been trying to figure out what that means. I don't know what it means, Blessing said honestly. I think it means you're human. You're allowed to keep things that hurt. Allowed to not have all the answers. He slid the bill across the table. I don't want you to have this because it's a tip or charity or anything like that. I want you to have it because it's been between us for 4 years, and maybe it's time it stopped being a weapon. She looked at the money, picked it up, put it in the register. Payment for 4 years of meals you didn't taste, she said. Fair enough. They sat in silence. The diner hummed around them, the kitchen fan, the old refrigerator, the fluorescent lights that needed replacing. I'm not the man I was, Taijun said quietly. I'm trying to be better, not for you. I know you're not coming back, just for myself. Because I don't want to be the kind of man who makes people smaller anymore. That's good, Blessing said. I hope you get there. Me too. He stood, buttoned his coat. Goodbye, Blessing, he said. Goodbye, Taijun. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. For what it's worth, he said. You were always this big, this brave, this brilliant. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy trying to keep you. I'm sorry I never told you that when it mattered. Then he left. Blessing sat at table 6 for a long time after, cried quietly, not sad tears, not happy tears. Just tears, the kind that come when something heavy finally lifts Mrs. Beyond came and sat beside her, didn't say anything, just put a hand on her shoulder. I'm okay, Blessing said. I know you are, honey, I know. 3 months later. The diner had a new sign, Mrs. Beyond finally replaced the one that had been flickering for 6 years. It was bright and clean, and spelled the name correctly for the first time ever. Blessing stood behind the counter at 1 in the morning, manager now, full-time, with a visa that said she could stay. Amandi came in after his evening classes, sat at the counter. Ordered too much food. How's school? Blessing asked. Hard. Good. Professor Kim thinks my thesis idea is interesting. Of course he does. You're brilliant. I learned from the best. Junho came out of the kitchen. Stop being gross. Some of us are trying to work. They all laughed. Marie stopped by after her shift, ate soup. Complained about the hospital. Made everyone laugh with her terrible impressions of the doctors. This was life now, full and loud in hers. Blessing's tutoring had grown, 15 students now. Meeting at the Kenyan church 3 times a week. She was saving money, not a lot, but enough. Paying back the loan, $243 every month. She'd made 4 payments so far, 14 to go. Mr. Go still came in for soup on Fridays. Always polite, always kind. How is he? Blessing asked once. Better, Mr. Go said, slower. But better. She didn't ask for details, didn't need them. Taejun's growth was his own. Not hers to witness, not hers to fix, and that was okay. One morning, Blessing took the subway home at 6. Sunrise was coming through the windows. The city was waking up. A woman sat across from her reading a book. The cover was in Swahili. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, a Kenyan author. Blessing smiled. The woman looked up, smiled back. They didn't speak, didn't need to. But for a moment in a city of 10 million people, Blessing felt seen by someone who expected nothing from her. And that was enough. That had always been enough. She got off at her stop. Walked to the apartment she shared with Marie and Ji-yoon. Omandi was already asleep on his mattress. Mouth open, snoring, she changed into pajamas, lay down on her own mattress. Tomorrow she'd work. She'd tutor. She'd make loan payments and help Mrs. Bion with inventory and text her mother in Kasumu. Tomorrow she'd keep building the life that was entirely hers, but tonight she slept. Deep and dreamless and free. The kind of sleep that only comes when you know exactly who you are, and you're not afraid of it anymore. 4 years ago, Blessing had left a penthouse in Gangnam with 1 suitcase and no plan. Now she had a job she loved, a brother she was helping through school, friends who were family. A community that held her up, a future that belonged to nobody but her. She wasn't rich. She wasn't comfortable, but she was free. And freedom, it turned out, was worth every exhausted, broke, beautiful moment it took to find it. She'd thrown back a $1,000 tip because she wasn't something that could be bought. And in doing that, she'd bought herself. Piece by piece, choice by choice, freedom by freedom, until the girl who'd forgotten how to be big remembered, and became bigger than she'd ever been. The end. So that's the story. Blessing chose herself. Taejun learned to let go. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from someone who loves you wrong and build something that loves you right. If this story meant something to you, if you felt it in your chest, do me a favor. hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment telling me what you thought. Did Blessing do the right thing? Would you have done the same? I want to know. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.